why not just codify them? Let them sail through this chamber. We have a trifecta. You have control of the House, the Senate, the presidency. Why not put them before us? I'll be happy to vote on them.
2 words. Probably not. That's it. That's the video. A man who has spent months in front of Congress defending some of the most aggressive tariff policy in American history. Tariffs that have cost consumers billions, rattled global markets, and reshaped entire supply chains, just quietly admitted that if you put those tariffs to a vote, he wouldn't push the button. Now let me back up, because the moment that led to those 2 words, that's the part everyone needs to see. This is a congressional hearing. The witness is Ambassador Jamieson Greer, the United States Trade Representative. He's been in rooms like this before. He knows how these go. He comes prepared. He comes polished. And then this congressman opened his mouth. What followed was not a shouting match. It wasn't a viral meltdown. It was something far more dangerous for the administration. A calm, methodical, point-by-point evisceration of the entire tariff argument. And it ended with a constitutional question the ambassador simply could not answer without burying himself.
You say these things. Let me give you the data that I have, and I get these things from the Wall Street Journal and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. The loss of 88,000 manufacturing jobs last year. The loss of 500,000 blue-collar jobs last year. Net job growth, December, January, February together, net 0 jobs. I try to talk to each of my chambers of commerce every year, and those are largely Republican small business people. And the topic has come back to trade first and foremost every time, the way it's hurting their small businesses. And then I spoke to the realtors this morning in Virginia. National Association of Home Builders, again, a pretty Republican organization, has pointed out that the tariffs on steel, lumber, aluminum, and tile have created an $11,000 increase in the cost of building a new home. Now that's a significant part of it. But let me shift. You speak eloquently about the Constitution, calling it our most important trade agreement, and you've praised the founding fathers for designing it with the separation of powers. And I know you're very familiar with Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, where founders gave Congress, not the president, the ultimate authority over trade policy and taxation. And we did this with the basic knowledge of the nation's early history, when they wanted to give the power to tax the American people to their elected representatives and not hand it all over to a mad king. And we're relearning the importance of this decision every single day of this presidency. Last year in front of this committee, Ambassador, you defended the president's decision to declare a national emergency over the longstanding trade deficit and over a non-existent crisis of fentanyl coming in from Canada to impose tariffs on most of the globe. We argued to you then that these tariffs were obviously illegal, and then the Supreme Court agreed, forcing the government to now refund billions in unlawful taxes. In response, the government unearthed an arcane half-century-old law, declared that we are facing a balance of payments crisis, and is imposing another round of likely illegal taxes on the American people. And on top of that, you're twisting the intent of 2 other trade authorities beyond all recognition to cobble together flimsy justifications for even more tariffs. Look, you and the president argue these tariffs are an incredible and popular policy tool to lead all sorts of positive outcomes to the American people. If that's true, why not just codify them? Let them sail through this chamber. We have a trifecta. You have control of the House, the Senate, the presidency. Why not put them before us? I'll be happy to vote on them.
But would you vote for them?
Probably not.
I think.
But I'd love to see them, sure.
Let's go through exactly what just happened, because there are 3 layers here, and each one is worse than the last. Layer 1, the numbers. The congressman didn't come in with talking points. He came in with data. Wall Street Journal, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, not liberal sources, not progressive think tanks. The Wall Street Journal and the Chamber are Republican-leaning institutions. And what are they reporting? 88,000 manufacturing jobs lost last year, 500,000 blue-collar jobs gone, and 3 consecutive months, December, January, February, of net 0 job growth. Then he mentions his conversations with local chambers of commerce, largely Republican small business owners. And trade is their number one concern, not healthcare, not immigration, trade. Because the tariffs are eating them alive. And then, this is the detail that hits different, he brings up the National Association of Home Builders, another conservative-leaning organization. And they've done the math. The tariffs on steel, lumber, aluminum, and tile have added $11,000 to the cost of building a new home. $11,000. In a housing affordability crisis, when home ownership is already slipping out of reach for millions of Americans. So that's layer one. The data doesn't lie, and the people bringing the congressman this data are not the president's political enemies. They're his base. Layer two, the Constitution. This is where the congressman shifted gears and went somewhere most members of Congress don't go. He didn't just argue policy. He argued constitutional authority. Article 1, Section 8. The founders gave Congress, not the president, the ultimate authority over trade policy and taxation. This wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate design choice made by people who had just lived under a king who taxed them without their consent. The power to tax the American people was placed in the hands of elected representatives on purpose, and the congressman made it personal. He looked at the ambassador and said, "We are relearning the importance of this decision every single day of this presidency." That line wasn't loud. He didn't shout it. He said it calmly. And that's why it landed like a hammer. He then walked through the timeline. Last year, this same ambassador defended emergency tariffs imposed under a claimed national emergency over a non-existent fentanyl crisis from Canada. The congressman told him at the time, those tariffs are illegal. The Supreme Court agreed. The government is now refunding billions in unlawful taxes. So what did the administration do? They went digging, found a 50-year-old law, declared a balance of payments crisis, and imposed another round of tariffs the congressman is calling equally illegal, while simultaneously twisting the intent of two additional trade authorities to stack on even more. This isn't trade policy. This is an executive branch improvising legal cover for a political agenda, one court ruling at a time. Layer 3, the trap. And here is where the congressman closed the door. He said, "Look, you and the president argue these tariffs are popular and effective. Great. Prove it. You have the House. You have the Senate. You have the White House. A trifecta. Put the tariffs before Congress. Let us vote. I'll vote." Then he turned and asked the ambassador directly, "But would you vote for them?" Pause. Probably not. That's the confession. Right there. The man defending these tariffs to Congress, the man whose entire job is to sell this trade agenda, just acknowledged in front of a congressional committee on the record that he would not personally vote for the policy he is paid to defend. Now, Greer tried to recover. He pivoted to the Biden years, said 230,000 manufacturing jobs were lost in the last 2 years of the previous administration. He cited a Harvard study about NAFTA's health outcomes. He talked about reindustrialization, AI-assisted workers, Michigan factory floors, and the chips shortage during the pandemic. Some of those points are fair. The deindustrialization of America is a real problem. The China debt to shock was real. The damage from decades of bad trade agreements, real. Nobody serious is disputing that. But here's the thing. None of that answered the question. The question was not, has trade policy hurt American workers in the past? The question was, if these specific tariffs are such good policy, why won't you put them through Congress? And the answer was, probably not. You don't get to argue the tariffs are wildly popular and necessary and transformational, and then in the same breath admit you wouldn't vote for them. You don't get both. Pick one. Either these tariffs can survive a Democratic vote, in which case hold the vote, or they can't survive a Democratic vote, in which case stop pretending they represent the will of the American people. The ambassador chose silence and then chose deflection. And the congressman sat back and let the silence do the work. This hearing didn't make headlines the way a screaming match does. Nobody stormed out. Nobody went viral for throwing a binder. But what happened in that room was arguably more damaging than any blow-up. A senior Trump administration official, the man responsible for defending this trade agenda, admitted he wouldn't vote for it. Meanwhile, the economic data from conservative institutions is getting worse. A housing market already in crisis is being hit with $11,000 cost increases from tariffs on building materials. Small business owners who vote Republican are calling their representatives and saying, this is hurting us. And the constitutional argument isn't going away either. The Supreme Court already ruled against one round of tariffs. The legal foundation for the current round is, by the congressman's reading, equally shaky. The administration has a trifecta. If tariffs are popular, pass them. If they're good policy, let Congress own that vote. The fact that they won't probably not tells you everything you need to know. If you made it this far, hit subscribe. This kind of hearing, where the real story isn't the yelling but the quiet admission at the end, this is exactly what we cover. New videos dropping regularly. Drop a comment. Do you think these tariffs would survive a congressional vote? Let's talk about it below.